Women's triathlon is underway. It's just finished after the men's event was postponed yesterday because of concerns that the Seine River was too polluted for swimming. This comes after Paris spent more than $1.5 billion to clean it up, promising that it would be clean enough for even the French President Emmanuel Macron to swim in it. Joining us with more from Berlin is Deutsche Welle correspondent Emily Leshner. Emily, g'day. So spending more than $1.5 billion to clean a river that quickly became polluted again after heavy rain begs the question, is spending all this money to host the Olympics worth it? Is it a good investment that will pay off in the end?
Hi. Yeah, it's a very good question. I mean, the Paris Games, it's costing the French government and French taxpayers somewhere in the ballpark of 9 and 10 billion euro. The government says it expects around 7 to 11 billion euro in economic benefits, but that's spread over the next 17 years. And it's also quite possible that the Games will cost much more than has been budgeted, which has been the case for every Olympic host since 1960. So, for example, France has already spent over 1.5 billion euro for the Olympic Village. That's at least a third more than was originally budgeted. The entire Games are coming in over budget. Now, the government has also said that they've added 180,000 jobs, so that would be an economic boost. But these jobs are temporary, and even the permanent workers who may get a bump in hours or shifts during the Games in order to handle the influx of tourists, they're unlikely to see any permanent increase in salary. And these taxpayers are also bearing part of the cost of the Games. Around 3 billion euro of the budget comes from taxpayer funding. And what the figure doesn't represent is that this taxpayer money will also be spent on venues for years after the Games have ended. A lot of the infrastructure that's built isn't going to be repurposed. And for the sports venues that will remain, that will be repurposed, the city will have to continue to spend funding on maintenance for years to come. Your viewers might be familiar that the Sydney Olympic Stadium costs the city around 30 million a year to maintain. And so more often than not, even when a host city has done everything it can to cut costs, the Olympic Games are a drain on state and city finances, especially in the short term.
But what's Paris done to cut down on costs?
Well, they are the first city to test the cost-cutting reforms that were set by the International Olympic Committee in 2019, and they have indeed cut down on costs. They've spent around 15% less than the previous Summer Games in Tokyo. And so one way they're doing this is by relying quite heavily on existing venues. For example, like the venue that was built for the annual French Open, as well as the 2016 European Football Championship. And the Games will be spread out to stadiums in other French cities, including Lyon, Marseille, and Nice. And so, though there is quite a significant portion of the infrastructure budget that is still being spent on Paris, around 4.5 billion euro. And then, of course, there's some cost-cutting measures like those infamous cardboard beds that athletes sleep on in the Olympic Village, which, for the record, actually made their debut in Tokyo and not in Paris. And according to some comments from athletes on social media, they are indeed pretty sturdy. But these are going to be recycled at the end of the Games. So that's a major cost-saving measure there. And Paris also says the Olympic Village units will be rented or sold after the Games end.
And how are the Olympic Games impacting the tourism sector in Paris and the rest of Europe this summer?
Well, some sectors are going to do very well. Others are going to take a hit. Bars and restaurants expect to see a boost in profits. The whole hotel industry is also expected to do very well. This is largely due to the fact that they're going to increase hotel fees, lodging fees, up to 45% during this period of the Summer Games. But these high hotel prices, they're also the reason why some tourists are going to avoid Paris during this time when there would be a healthy tourism season. And that's having also a negative impact on airlines like Delta and Air France. Air France, KLM, the group says that they expect to lose somewhere between 160 and 100 million euro from June to August. Delta also says they'll take a hit. I mean, tourists just don't want to deal with the big crowds of Olympic fans, the high prices of hotel rooms. So they're either going to wait to go to Paris until after the Games in September, if their vacation period allows, or they'll choose another European city to visit this summer, likely in the south where it's nice and warm. So it's a mixed bag for other other sectors in the industry.
And Emily, we've heard that it's really hot in Paris at the moment. Is it ridiculously hot in Berlin too?
It is pretty toasty. I wouldn't say it's as hot as Paris. And even if I was in Paris right now, I don't know if I would, take a dip in the Seine despite it being cleared for the triathlon. But no,
cleared.
It's not as hot in Berlin as it is in Paris.
Okay, Emily Leshner reporting there from toasty Berlin. Here are the